Hello, everybody. Here we are once again at the Verge Technologies podcast, and I am here with CEO and co-founder Jimmy Jobe, based in Dallas, Texas. I am your host, Fernando Labastida, and Jimmy. Let's do this. I wanted to ask you if you were to give advice to the CTO or CIO of a large global enterprise corporation who wants to start getting into converged cloud because they saw what happened with this Amazon outage. It scared the bejesus out of them. They want to hedge their bets. They want to diversify their, not putting all their eggs in one basket. How would you recommend? What are the steps you would recommend them to take to start going into a converged cloud scenario?
Yeah. So I guess that's a good question, Fernando. And I guess one of my first recommendations would be to if you're in a with a single cloud provider and you have all of your critical system infrastructure with one cloud provider, you have a single point of failure, and you will fail at some point. So my advice would be to diversify outside of just one cloud and to use multiple clouds as your assets to be able to not only uh, uh, have different parts of your business processes running in different cloud providers, which reduces your risk and increases your resilience, but also to use those more as what I'm going to call assets. And so, if today, according to Gartner, most enterprises are running between 4 and 7 different service providers in order to service the enterprise's distributed footprint, right? And so you say, well, I'm already running in multiple clouds right today. How could I use those better, right? And then the follow-on question is, well, once I figure out how to use those better, how do I manage all of that, right? And how do I manage in more what I'm going to call more of a converged cloud model or environment? Versus managing each one of those clouds as a vertical, right? Today, that's how they're managed, right? So you're in 3 clouds. Well, you're managing all 3 clouds vertically, and then you're trying to figure out how to integrate all of that and trying to figure out the different user interfaces and the different tool sets across all those clouds to try to manage those for performance, for workload management, for scaling, for failover, for all of that, right? And the complexity of trying to do that is just, it's out the roof, right? So my advice would be, number one, if you're in a single cloud, uh, uh, and you're concerned about your customers and your uptime and being able to recover quickly from outages, my advice would be to get in multi-cloud. The fintech world has already kind of started the road down this path, right? And they are
Underway.
saying, well, we don't want to be in just one cloud, right? For all the reasons we've just talked about. We want to be in multiple clouds, and we want to be able to reduce our risk of ever going down completely by doing things like having our critical systems fail over to another cloud, or doing my data offsite replication to another cloud, or doing my backup to another cloud, so that I can quickly get back in operation if one of my cloud providers went down, right? And
Mhm.
so being able to use those cloud providers as assets is kind of the first step. The second step is, well, how do I manage that? And how you manage that is through products like and platforms such as SentientDB that Verge produces. That is able to take all those particular cloud instances and all the databases in all those different cloud instances and provide a unified or federated management model that allows you to provide a self-monitoring, self-healing, self-managing environment for every one of those databases, no matter where it's hosted, no matter where on the planet it's hosted, and treat all of that and manage all of that as if it was in one virtual data center. That's the power of AI, and that's the power of managed in a what I'm going to call a converged cloud management system. And that is where we believe the future of IT management is.
Converged Cloud Management System. I like that. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more use of that term in the common IT and data center vernacular going forward. Um, so, I mean, is there any way that you could expand on the Converged Cloud? Um, what did you call it again? What was that term?
The converged cloud management system. So yes, and so number one, in today's world, you have two settings, right? You have the as is, and you have where we're going to, right? So the beauty of around autonomous management systems such as SentientDB is the fact that they can manage all three of those separate clouds that you're managing vertically today. We can install and manage all the three of those vertically as well as horizontally and provide a management plane that you can manage within and across all those environments, right? So if you're in today's world and you want to get to tomorrow's world, we can manage today's world as if it's in tomorrow's world while you're doing that transition. Let me just say that. And so in what where IT is headed is autonomous management systems using technologies such as AI to be able to provide what I'm going to call a self-managing and self-healing automated environment where as workload or performance issues start to arise with an application or a database, you can predict the outcome of that in time and in severity. And then not only can you predict it and sound the alarms, right? But you can take action to correct it, to mitigate it, to prevent it from actually happening in the future, right? You know it's coming, and now you're taking corrective action in real time, at runtime, live when you're processing transactions in order to correct a workload issue that's going to manifest itself in an outage in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's the power of systems like Verge's SentientDB, and there's going to be a lot more of those that are going to be on the market in the next few years. And I see a real need for common interfaces between a lot of those platforms so that you can take, let's say, the output of a network management system and feed it into a system like ours, where that if you have a lot of network congestion and on a particular network, we could pick up that database or that application and move it to a different network. Again, helping you to optimize the performance of that, ensuring that it doesn't go down, ensuring that a forecasted network outage is not going to affect your ability to optimize the performance of all of your assets. That power, whether it's hooked to risk systems, whether it's to network management systems, to inventory systems, to provisioning systems, being able to start to couple the different aspects of that unified management together is very powerful, and I see that as the future of IT management.
Okay. It's a great answer there. And I wanted to pivot a little bit. You recently posted, and in fact, I want to go to your LinkedIn profile, but you recently posted a LinkedIn post, in which you really kind of, took a lot of these, large enterprise IT departments to task for still having maintenance windows or still having downtime, right? And so, that was, and you got a lot of, you got a lot of comments. You said if your system still need a maintenance window, you're living in 2010, right? And I mean, basically this post went viral. Okay. You got 23 comments, you got a ton of likes, and some of the comments were, they sort of disagreed with your premise about going, avoiding downtime, which is, your premise is there's no reason why today, given, the technologies, Verge cloud technology such as SentientDB, DB, and whatever's coming down the pike. There's no reason why any company should have any maintenance windows anymore. And there were some comments that kind of questioned that. And I was wondering if you could take this opportunity today to,
Sure.
get on your soapbox and sort of once and for all kind
I
of answer those, to give a blanket answers to anybody in the past and the future who might question the need for, who doubt your premise that there's no need for maintenance windows.
sure be glad to. So a couple of things. So uh part some of the thoughts that people had, and by the way, I welcome all the thoughts. I mean, dude, just bring them. Let's have an open discussion, right? uh I think part of it was in people saying, well, of course you need maintenance windows. And so I think that the difference is that if you could have a zero downtime maintenance window, in other words, you could continue operating, would you still need maintenance? And so the answer is yes, you still need to do maintenance. You just don't have to have a downtime to do it, right? You still need to do upgrades. You still need to do security patches. You still need to do version enhancements. You still need to do all of those things. But what I'm proposing is that you don't need to take an outage in order to do those things today, right? That you can take that particular server with that particular database on it, and you can move that database off of that server to a swing server with zero downtime, zero transaction loss, and continue running all the time you're doing maintenance on that source server. And then in the end, you can just switch it back, right? And you say, well, what about testing? Well, you can still do the same amount of testing. So when you do maintenance, you test those patches before you implement them.
Mhm.
You implement them, and then you test them after you implement. I am not saying that's a bad practice. That's an excellent practice, right? And so you say, oh, well, if got this over there on another server, then how could I test my source server that I'm going to move back to? When you say, well, I'm just going to scale out to that server, and my transactions are going to go to both servers, so I can test one while I'm running production on the other. And once I finish that testing, I can shut that off and move it back over there permanent. So I'm just planning the idea that you can have a maintenance window, what we used to call a maintenance window, with zero downtime. I'm not advocating that you don't have to do maintenance anymore. That's crazy. That's crazy talk,
Yeah.
right? What I'm advocating is that, and let's just say you couldn't do that 100% of the time in every case. Well, would you settle for 50% less maintenance outages? Would you sell for 30% less? 70% less? Any amount that you can do with zero downtime helps your SLAs, helps you with your customers. You don't get as many complaints. You have the ability to make more money. All of those things are happening because you don't have to take an actual downtime, right? So I think a lot of people got misconstrued about what we were actually talking about and jumped to the conclusion that what I was really saying was that you don't have to do maintenance anymore. That's not at all
Yeah.
what I was saying. I was saying
Mhm.
is you don't have to take an outage to do that maintenance.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. That was the distinction, and I'm glad we were able to make that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, in this day and age, there's no reason why your your banking website or e-commerce website should be down,
Should go
even if
down. Yeah.
yeah, even if it's 2 a.m. You know, there are night owls who will be shopping or doing their financial, checking their financial accounts or what have you, and they want to be able to do it at 2 a.m. on a Sunday morning. You know, uh, but it's not just that. It's like the whole reliability. It's the whole
Yeah,
confidence thing.
it is. No, that was I love to get all the comments and just see what everyone is saying. So that was great. And I think, it ended up with what, I don't know, 20,000 views or something. It was extraordinary. But I believe wholeheartedly that we're doing maintenance today without thinking about a lot of different ways to do it better with less downtime. And automated systems such as ours help in one area, and that's in database management, right? But similar systems will exist for doing the same thing with applications and other components of your infrastructure, right? So, uh, and when you think about maintenance, the majority of IT dollars spent today are spent on maintenance. I mean, it's like 60 or 70% is spent on maintaining and keeping the current system up, not about innovation, right? So
Yeah,
if you could reduce that by 10%, by 20%, by 40%, why wouldn't you be all over that, right? Why wouldn't you want to change your processes in order to better serve your customers, reduce your company's cost, and provide a better service for everyone?
yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. It's like I don't know. It's like if you could have air conditioning all summer long, why wouldn't you want to do that? I'm sure there was a time when air conditioning was a luxury, and there were people who saying, I might use it occasionally if it's a really, really hot day, but we can suffer the rest of the Texas summer
Summer? Yeah.
in the heat. We can just turn on a fan or something. It's like, well, if you can have air conditioning all the time, well, it's like sounds like a very similar
Yeah. Well,
similar
it's kind of like, well, let's think about this. This is a major drain for every IT dollar that's spent. Wouldn't we want to find some better ways so that we could do it better, cheaper, faster, with less downtime? And the answer is, well, why would you not want to do that, right? Even if you could cut 15 or 20%, why would you not want to do that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Gee, Whitakers. Okay. Well, fantastic, Jimmy. Is there anything else that you would say to that CTO or the CIO, et cetera, wanting to prepare, a risk mitigation strategy via the Converged Cloud, or performance optimization strategy via Converged Cloud? Anything else, or did we cover it?
Well, I think we covered the majority of it. I think that, you got to approach this from a very realistic standpoint. And that is, you're not going to have business continuance and failover for every single server and every single database that you have running your operations. So being able to reduce the dependency between systems or increase the redundancy across systems is going to be the name of the game. You may look at all of your systems, right? All of your IT business processes and everything that's needed to support those. and ultimately decide that I just need 30%. If I could fail over or provide a very quick ramp up because of an outage for just 30%, I could just do, bare skin and bones processing. I could keep my customers at bay, and I could mitigate a huge amount of risk of just being completely down, right?
Hmm.
And I could do that in a very quick way, right? So because I couldn't afford to do everything, and it's just it's too costly. You couldn't have failover, you couldn't have business continuance, you couldn't have that on everything. So my advice would be to really look the at your systems, identify which ones of those are absolutely critical to your operation and to your customers more specifically, and then take those systems and look at the dependencies between systems. If one goes down, is it a domino effect and they all go down? Is there less coupling, more redundancy needed between two or three of those systems that would improve it all? But at the end of the day, that is going to be kind of your baseline. Now, again, I'll emphasize that, our products can manage that today from a database perspective, but they can't manage it from your entire infrastructure perspective for keeping all your applications and everything else running, right? So today we could manage that, whether you've made the decision to do all of that analysis work and decide what to do. We can do that for you from a database perspective. I would encourage you to do that for all of your infrastructure and be able to have a multi-cloud environment by design, uh,
Hmm.
because it's needed for
Yeah.
resilience, it's needed for redundancy, it's needed for failover, it's needed for business continuance. It's needed for all of those things to reduce the operating risk of your enterprise.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for these very valuable lessons, Jimmy. And we will see each other on the next episode of the podcast.
Sounds good. Thank you, Fernando.